few movers and shakers. You know, next week is going to be my last educational moment for a while, and Ramon is taking over, so I won't get to do any more of these educational moments. Unless, of course, I saw who did that, Craig. I'll be back at the office later, and I'll make sure to adjust a few things. So yeah, I'm not going to get to do any more educational moments unless Ramon goes on vacation or gets sick, or unless something really bad happens to Ramon.
We can be a tag team. I mean, you love this job.
But I thought I would talk about my public speaking journey and what all has happened in my life to even get me to the point where I could do these educational moments. Years ago, I always felt like I had a skill with speaking. And I used to go to Toastmasters so I could get a little practice with my public speaking. And I used to tell my wife at the time, I used to say, hey, I think that I could really be good at this if I would just practice and work at it. And she said, you're already good. What are you talking about? You don't need Toastmasters. You're better than all those people. And I'm like, what are you talking about? When have you ever even seen me speak? She's like, I've seen you. I know you can do this. But I never felt like I was better than anybody, like I didn't need practice. I felt like, no, this is something I could do, but I really need to work at it. And so B&I gave me a lot of great opportunities to give 8-minute presentations, to give 30-second commercials. I started getting a little bit better, and I started looking for opportunities to volunteer and give an educational moment here or there. And I would give an educational moment, and I would get a little practice. And then at one point, I said, hey, I got a great idea. Let me offer to do people's 8-minute presentations for them. And so I offered to do their 8-minute presentations. And I did several members' 8-minute presentations. I did yours, by the way, Craig, and now you turn on me today. You turn on me, you know. But I did like 3 different members' 8-minute presentations. I put in the work, the time. I did it for free just because I wanted the practice. It's the equivalent of sweeping the floors like Prince did so that he could ultimately get a record deal and became who he became. So I was doing this. At one point, I decided to get this big tripod and to video myself so that I could see myself speak, and I could see if I was good, if I was doing things that were good, if I were doing things that I needed to improve. And so I set the tripod up right back there, and I remember when I sat it up, I saw some people over here, and I'm not 100% sure, but I think they were talking about me when I was setting up this big tripod, and I think they were laughing at me. But guess what? I set the tripod up anyway, and I videoed myself. And I kept doing it, and doing it, and doing it, and I started getting a little bit better, and finally I got the support of the room. And I wanted to be the educational coordinator really bad, and I got the support of the room. I had been the president, I had done some speaking there, and it was time for the changeover of the leadership team. And I wanted to be the educational coordinator. And everybody was saying, yeah, we want Brian to be the educational coordinator. But guess what? I had a big problem. And Tommy knows who the problem was, because Tommy didn't like her. Nobody liked her. She was in charge at the time. And even though I liked her and I gave her a chance and things were good for a while, I too eventually got on this lady's bad side, and she was in power. She didn't like me. I wanted to be the educational coordinator, so I called her up. I said, hey, it's Brian. I had to leave a voicemail. She didn't answer. I said, hey, it's Brian Wade. I said, I'd really like to be the educational coordinator, and, a lot of people seem to think I would do a good job, and I just wanted to mention that to you. She didn't even call me back. She sent me a text. She goes, oh, well, Brian, I got your voicemail, but we're going to look for somebody who's E squared. E squared. That's a roadblock. Because guess what? None of the previous educational coordinators had been E squared in recent history. E squared means that you had to take 5 classes. And at that time, you had to drive around town, pay $20, $25, whatever it was. You had to drive to different cities to take these classes. And the previous educational coordinator didn't have the E squared, but she threw that roadblock up and she said, Brian, we're going to look for somebody that's E squared. I said, oh, I see what you're trying to do to me. You're trying to make me get E squared. I only had 1 class. I did the math. I was like, I got 2 months to get E squared. And I did. I drove to Spring Hill. I drove to Clearwater. I drove to all these different places. She didn't think I was going to get E squared. I got E squared. I called her right back. Hey, guess what? Hey, it's Brian Wade. I went ahead. I'm E squared now. I'm E squared. And guess what? I still didn't get the educational coordinator position. They actually brought in somebody. I try to be humble, and I am humble about my ability, but I'm going to say this. They brought in somebody who wasn't a good speaker, wasn't as good as the speaker as me, and they brought her in to be the educational coordinator. And I'm not going to lie, I was angry. I was like Kanye West when they didn't give him the Grammy Award, and he starts complaining and bitching, and I was angry. I gave a couple members an earful. Ralph Feldkamp, Jack Brady. I was talking to these people on the phone. I was not happy. And I was vocal about it. But it's at that point that most people quit a group. I've seen it so many times over the years. I saw somebody quit this group over a cutting board. They gave a speech, they handed out a cutting board, they have one business, the cutting board said a second business name, somebody made a comment about that, they got offended, that's all it was, a comment, they got offended, they quit the group. I've seen people quit networking groups over the years over little things. And that was certainly an opportunity where I was offended and I could have quit the group. But I didn't. I thought I would never be the educational coordinator. I thought, you know what? I'm making money here. This is good for my business. I'm just going to keep doing this. I'm going to be as positive as I can, and I'm going to move on. And that's what I did. I never would have foreseen this happening. But the person who was in charge, who didn't like me, who I thought was going to be in charge forever, because she had been in charge forever, I thought she was going to continue to be in charge forever. Guess what? Leadership changed. She didn't like the new leadership. She quit the group. She quit the organization. I couldn't believe it. Oh my goodness. And I can't even remember all the history because I'm getting older and things have changed so many times. But I've had so many opportunities now to be the educational coordinator, where I got to be the educational coordinator, and then they brought in somebody new to be the educational coordinator, and 6 months in, that person's got family issues and they got to travel to Georgia, so now they bring me in for 6 months. Or somebody else quits the group, and then they bring me in for 6 months. So now I've gotten to do this a lot of times, maybe between 100 and 150 educational moments. And I feel like I'm still learning. I feel like I'm still growing. I do it for the love of doing it. I get no money for doing this. I get no benefit for doing this. I get clapped for, which is one of the few times in my life I get clapped for, so thank you. That's why I like it. But look at the journey. Look at all the persistence. Look at all the patience. Look at all the work I had to do just to get myself to a point where I can do a job that doesn't even pay me to do it, right? And I could have quit, and I could have given up, but I've learned that if you don't like things in an organization, if things aren't going your way in an organization, if things aren't happening the way you want them to, if you just wait and be patient, things change. People change. I've had people in this group that, Dr. Tommy can remember, there's been some people and we thought things would never change, and then they leave and things change. And so the question is what kind of person are you, and what's going to happen with you, right? Did you see a vision when COVID hit and we went online with Zoom? A lot of members dropped out. They couldn't see past the pandemic. They're like, I don't like being on Zoom. I'm frustrated, I quit. But some of us saw a future. We said, okay, we don't prefer this, but this is temporary, and we will be back in person again. Then we had people that they joined on Zoom, and then when we had to be in person, they couldn't, get up and come to the meeting. One guy quit, and now he's on Facebook asking for business. He's asking for business on Facebook, but he didn't get up and come to these meetings. So the question is what kind of person are you going to choose to be? because it's about perseverance. I'm here today in my career because I persevered the same way I did when I was trying to be the educational coordinator. I had some moments in my career where I was not making money, and it was hard, and it would have been a great time to quit. And for whatever reason, I didn't quit. And that's why I get to enjoy the benefits of the career that I enjoy today. Am I talking too long, Steve?
It's long. I'm taking notes.
Okay. I just see this look
I mean,
on
you can
Steve's
see the
face.
time frame, but
Yeah.
I'm entertained.
But what's going to happen, I'm just going to give you a scenario. Let's say we lost 4 members right now. I don't think that's going to happen. Dr. Tommy just renewed. I think Chris LaFrance just renewed. I just renewed. Lee Pearson isn't going anywhere. Steve Barton. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen, but let's say we lost 4 or 5 members right now. What are you going to do? Are you going to let that shake you? Or are you going to let that bother you? Or are you going to quit? Or are you going to see through to a better future? And you're going to say, you know, this happened, but I'm going to invite. Like, are you inviting now? Are you inviting now? So I wanted to talk about this today because I wanted to talk about the perseverance, the persistence, the grit that is necessary to get ourselves anywhere that we want to be in life that's worth it. And that's been my theme throughout my life and throughout my career, and it's paid off immensely. And I think that's the attitude that we all really need to have about this group. The stick-to-itiveness, the passion, the inviting, the not quitting, the not giving up. And I definitely think we should kick Craig Arndt out for his comments earlier. This has been your educational moment. Brian Wade.